The crisp, white envelope felt heavy in my hand, heavier than the flimsy piece of paper inside deserved. It was a one-way ticket to Reno, Nevada. For her, for Adriana, my wife. We'd been married for 10 years. 10 years of building a life, a home, a future. A future I'd thought we shared. I'd planned this evening as a romantic surprise, just because, date night to reignite the spark. I'd booked a table at our favorite Italian restaurant, the one where we'd celebrated our engagement. I even managed to snag her favorite corner booth. But the spark had already reignited, hadn't it? Just not with me. It had started subtly. A late night at the office, a forgotten anniversary dinner, a new perfume I hadn't bought her. Then came the whispers, the gut feeling that coiled in my stomach like a venomous snake. I hadn't wanted to believe it. I'd dismissed the signs, told myself I was being paranoid. But the knot in my gut tightened with each passing day until I couldn't ignore it any longer. So, I hired a private investigator. The pictures he'd delivered felt like a punch to the gut, a cold, hard fist crushing the air from my lungs. Adriana, my Adriana, tangled in the arms of another man. Not just any man, Daniel, my best friend. The restaurant reservation felt like a cruel joke now. I cancelled it, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Instead, I set the table at home. Candles, her favorite wine, the lasagna she loved. A macabre Last Supper. When she walked through the door, a smile playing on her lips, she looked radiant. She'd obviously been anticipating our date. My heart twisted. Surprise, I said, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion. I gestured to the table. She frowned, a flicker of unease crossing her face. What's all this? I slid the envelope across the table. Your surprise. She picked it up, her brow furrowed. As her eyes scanned the ticket, the blood drained from her face. Her hand trembled, the paper fluttering like a wounded bird. What is this? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. A one-way ticket. To Reno, I stated, my voice cold and hard. The color rushed back to her face, replaced by a furious crimson. Reno, are you insane? What are you talking about? Don't insult my intelligence, Adriana, I said, my voice laced with venom. I know about you and Daniel. The gasp she let out was ragged, desperate. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, a way out of the truth. But there was no escape. The walls were closing in, and the only way out was through the confession I already knew. She stammered, her voice cracking. Don't bother denying it, I cut her off. I have proof. The fight went out of her. She slumped in her chair, her shoulders shaking. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt no sympathy. Only a cold, hollow emptiness. Get out, Adriana, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Take the ticket. Start a new life. Just get out of my life. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. Please, John, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, I said, my voice rising. You broke my trust. You betrayed me. You destroyed everything we had. Now, get out. She sobbed, a broken, pathetic sound. She gathered her purse, her hands shaking so violently she almost dropped it. She didn't look back as she walked out the door, leaving a gaping hole in the silence of our home. The next morning, fueled by righteous anger and a need for closure, I drove to Daniel's apartment. I pounded on his door, the force of my blows rattling the cheap frame. He opened it, bleary-eyed and confused. The confusion morphed into stark terror when he saw my face. John, what are you? I didn't let him finish. I shoved him back into the apartment, my fists clenching. You son of a bitch. How could you? He stumbled back, his eyes wide with fear. John, I can explain. Explain, I roared, my voice echoing in the small apartment. Explain how you could betray me. How you could sleep with my wife. He cowered, shrinking under my rage. It just happened, he stammered, his voice weak. We didn't mean for it to happen. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think betraying your best friend just happens. You're a liar and a coward. I swung, connecting with his jaw. He yelped, stumbling back against the wall. I grabbed him by the collar, pulling him close. You took everything from me, Daniel. Everything, he whimpered, his eyes pleading for mercy. But there was no mercy left in me. Only the cold, hard satisfaction of revenge. I left him there, a broken, whimpering mess. I didn't call the police. I didn't need to. The damage was done. His world, like Adriana's and mine, had crumbled. The affair, their secret, was now public knowledge. His reputation, his career, his friendships, all ruined. The following weeks were a blur. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Adriana fought for nothing, accepting her fate with a quiet resignation. I sold the house, the place that held so many memories, both good and bad. I packed my belongings, leaving behind the shattered remnants of my life. I moved to a new city, a new state, a new beginning. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my chest. But it was fading. The anger had subsided, replaced by a strange sense of peace. I was free from the lies, the betrayal, the pain. Free to rebuild my life, brick by painful brick. The scars would remain, a permanent reminder of the betrayal. But they were also a testament to my resilience, my strength. I was a survivor, and I would survive.